All right, let's talk about something that hits pretty close to home for all of us, right in the wallet, tariffs. Today, we're going to dig into what recent economic studies tell us about the real impact. Who really benefits, who gets hurt, and what the final bill looks like for the U.S. economy.
And really, it all boils down to this one single question. When a government slaps a tariff on imported goods, who actually ends up footing the bill? Is it the foreign country? Is it the American company that brings the goods in? Or is it you? Let's follow the data and see where it leads.
Okay, let's get into it. And to really get our heads around the full impact, we have to start with the absolute fundamentals. So, what even is a tariff? On the surface, it's pretty straightforward. A tariff is just a tax. A government decides to put this tax on products coming in from another country. The goal, at least on paper, is simple. Make those foreign goods more expensive so that people are more likely to buy the stuff made right here at home.
But, and this is a huge but, the real economy is so much more complicated than that. A tariff isn't some kind of surgical laser that just zaps a foreign company. It's a lot more like dropping a stone into a still pond. It creates these ripples that spread out, often in ways you wouldn't expect.
So, let's follow that first ripple, the most obvious one, the direct cost. This is the immediate effect. And it's all about the prices that we see on the shelves.
Think about the journey of that cost. It all starts the second a product hits a U.S. port. The tariff gets slapped on. An American company, the importer, has to pay that tax right away. But they're a business, right? They're not just going to eat that cost. They pass it on to the next company down the line, which passes it on again, until finally it lands right on the price tag you see in the store.
And look, this isn't just a hunch. This is what the data overwhelmingly shows. When economists studied the 2018-2019 tariffs, they came to a really clear conclusion. That financial burden, it wasn't being paid by foreign countries. It was almost entirely passed through to Americans in the form of higher prices for you and me and higher costs for U.S. businesses that need those imported parts to make their own products.
And we're not talking about a small amount of money here. One of the key studies actually put a number on it. By the end of 2018, these tariffs were cutting U.S. real income by $1.4 billion every single month. That is a massive drain, flowing directly out of the American economy.
Now let's trace that next ripple, because the price at the store is really just the beginning of the story. There are all these hidden costs that spread through the economy, starting with the complex supply chains that make everything we buy.
Think about how a modern car or a smartphone gets made. The parts come from all over the world, so when a tariff hits those imported parts, it's the American manufacturer that gets squeezed. They're stuck with a tough choice. Either eat the higher cost, which means less money to invest and hire, or try to completely retool their supply chain, which is incredibly slow and expensive. Both paths lead to the same place, a less productive company, and, you guessed it, higher prices for the rest of us.
And of course, trade is not a one-way street. When one country puts up a wall, you can bet other countries are going to build their own. We call this retaliation, and it creates a whole new wave of economic damage.
And this retaliation hits American exporters like a ton of bricks, especially in farming. You can see the brutal reality right here. On the left, that's U.S. farm exports to China before the retaliation. And that little bar on the right, that's what was left after China fired back. The market just vanished, costing American farmers billions in lost sales of things like soybeans.
Okay, let's zoom out now to the widest ripple of all. What's the net effect on jobs, on inflation, and on the entire U.S. economy when you put all these pieces together?
So, let's be fair. Did the tariffs help anybody? The research says, yes, there were some small job gains in the very specific industries that were being protected from foreign competition. But then you have to look at the rest of the scorecard. You've got huge financial losses for consumers and importers, and massive losses for our exporters like those farmers. When you add it all up, the conclusion from the research is pretty stark. The small gains were completely overwhelmed by the much larger losses, leading to a net negative for the U.S. economy as a whole.
This also connects directly to inflation. Tariffs push up prices across the board, and that puts the Federal Reserve in a really tricky position. To keep inflation under control, they might have to raise interest rates. And what does that mean for you? It means everything gets more expensive. Your mortgage, your car loan, and the loans businesses need to take out to grow. It's a straight line from that tax at the port to the interest rate on your loan.
Maybe the most damaging effect of all is the one that's hardest to see.
It's uncertainty. You can think of it like a quiet killer of economic growth. Businesses rely on predictability. They need to have a good idea of what the rules will be next year before they make a big bet on a new factory or hiring a lot more people. When trade policy is volatile and unpredictable, they just wait. They hit the pause button. And that pause means less investment, fewer jobs, and slower growth for everybody.
So where does that leave us? Let's bring it all together for the final bottom line. Based on all this evidence, how should we think about all this? Well, the research suggests we should see broad tariffs for what they are, a blunt instrument. It's like trying to perform surgery with a sledgehammer. It causes all sorts of collateral damage we just talked about. The alternative, according to the sources, is to use more targeted tools to help American industries without hurting everyone else. We're talking about things like tax credits for R&D, better worker training programs, or investments in infrastructure. Things that make all U.S. companies more competitive from the inside out.
And that takes us right back to our original question. But now we see it in a whole new light. It's not just about who pays the price. It's about how much they pay and how many other people are paying it right along with them. So the real question we're left with is this. What is the right price to pay for protecting one specific industry? Because as we've seen, when the tool you use is a broad tariff, that price is paid by just about everyone. Thanks for watching.